All right, we're finding percents, and we're gonna do this formula. Whatever the percent number is, goes over 100. So if we're finding, let's see. Hold on. I was gonna write that the other way when it's easier to go just straight to the decimals. Let's do 18. Actually, let's take one from the book. 12 is something percent of 20. Woo. Okay, so this is the formula we need to memorize. Is over of is the percent over 100. And then no matter what it's asking us to do, we can just plug the numbers in. So it does work for if I go, what is 15% of 40? That one, yeah, you can just plug the numbers in, but what it's gonna have you end up doing anyway is the decimal 0.15 times 40. I mean, it does the same thing, but kind of in a different way. So when it says what's the certain percent, you could just go straight to that decimal multiplication. Or if it's easier for you to remember just whatever the question is, plugging it into this formula, you can do that. But when we have 12 as something percent of something, then you have to use the formula. So that's what we're doing now. And then whatever your blank is, like on the first question that I just erased, what is 15% of 40? We know the percent, 15. We know of 40, but we don't know what it is. So we're looking for what the answer is, what the percent is. On this one, we do know what the number is. 12 is of 20, but we don't know what the percent is. So it just depends on what the question is. You know, you could also say 18 is 40% of what? And then you don't know what the of is. So there's lots of ways to phrase these questions where it's asking for one thing or another, right? So it might be asking for this or this or this. But this box is always 100, right? So it's never going to ask you for that because we always know that's 100. Because that's what percent means. It's something out of 100. So Eva, how do we plug this in? What numbers go where?
Would you just do 15 times 20 or 15 times 100 or like 100 times 15 or like 20 times 15?
Okay, 12 is of 20. So we plug those in right here. 12 is the is number. We're looking for an is number and then of number. So now we've created a proportion where it's something over 100 equals 12 over 20. And then we have to solve the proportion, right?
Oh.
So this is where we check, is it really easy just to solve with an equivalent fraction? Yes, because look at those denominators. You could just solve with a quick equivalent fraction. Or if you don't see any good shortcuts, you're going to have to do that cross multiplication, which we'll get to in a minute when we have a problem like that. But for this one, we can just go right to left. 20 times 5 is 100. So 12 times 5 is the number we're looking for.
60.
Can you see the green marker, okay?
Yeah, 60.
All right. So then we know the answer is 60. So 60% of 20 is 12. And does that make sense? Because 60% is going to be a little bit over half. Half of 20 is 10. So yeah, 12 is a little over half. So it's a proportion, which also means a ratio. So we've been talking about ratio. So there's a consistent ratio. 60 to 20 is the same relationship as 60 to 100 is the same relationship as 12 to 20.
Was that one of the problems?
Yep, that was number 1. Are you opening your book?
Yeah.
Okay, we're using Spectrum, Math 6, page 53. Okay, now let's do the next one. We're going to try it with some decimals. 0.9 is something percent of 4.5. Where do we put the 0.9? Formula?
Is like right by the is.
Yep, it is. Of 4.5. So now we have to do something 100 equals 0.9 over 4.5. And now when there's decimals in the way, it's going to be really hard to find any cheat, any shortcut, right? So we have to do that cross multiplication. So what's 0.9 times 100? Do you remember your zeros trick with the decimals?
Where you just cut off all the decimals off? Or the zeros off? Cannot talk today.
So if it's dividing, we would take zeros off, but when we're multiplying, we add zeros on. But before we add a zero on, we have to move the decimal point over to the right.
Mhm.
So 1 0, we'll move it over to the number to become number 9. The next 0 we can put on it. So then we have 90. So 0.9 times 100 is 90. 90 equals 4.5 times the mystery number, which we can put n, right? So 4.5 times n equals 90. Now, how do we figure this out?
Time?
So we have to do the opposite. This is multiplication.
Oh,
And
you
that's
mean,
kind of weird for you because you're not used to seeing it. Like I'm just gonna put a letter next to a number and call that multiplication, right? So this is a new thing. But it means 4.5 times a mystery number. And we're trying to figure out what that number is. But we know that fact families show us that the opposite of multiplication is division. So we can go 90 divided by 4.5 equals n.
Mhm.
Why? Because let's look at a fact family real fast. We're going to just put up a parallel, some equivalent problem. 6 equals 3 times 2. So that would be something equals something times something. And then I can go 6 divided by 3 equals 2. Right? I'm allowed to rearrange the numbers with the fact family. So that's what I did here. I just, instead of doing it a multiplication problem, I changed it to a division problem. You always have to keep that bigger number first. Divided by one or the other will equal the other one. So we have to do 90 divided by 4.5.
All right.
Do you have a calculator or should we do the long division?
Either one?
Okay, I'll raise you. Go ahead and use your calculator. 4.5 goes into 45. We add a 0. 45 goes into 90 twice. Did you get 20?
Wait, what are the numbers again?
All right, so here's a long division to show the answer is 20. And now we can just double check it and see if it makes sense. Well, 20 over 100, that can be simplified down to 1/5. Does it make sense that 0.9 is a fifth of 4.5? Because 9 times 5 is 45, and we just added a decimal to each of them. Or you could say 0.9 is almost 1. 1 times 5 is 5. So this is a little bit less than 1, and then a little bit less than 5. So we just go back over it at the end and make sure that it makes sense. Because sometimes if we have the decimal point in the wrong place, it'll be obvious. It'll be like, well, that doesn't make sense at all. Okay, so put that down, sir. Put the answer down in your book for 1B. Okay, 15 is something percent of 100. You know what to do? Where do we put it?
The 15 goes by the is and the 100 is by the of.
So it's going to be 15, no, 15 of 100. Okay, this is the one we did in class where it turns out to be super easy. So what's the answer here? Something 100ths equals 15 100ths. Do you see why that's super easy?
Well,
You don't even have to make an equivalent fraction. They're already the same fraction,
mhm,
right? So what's the answer?
just 15.
Yeah. That's why it's a dumb problem, because it already tells you anything out of 100, that is the percent. So put that answer down in your book. Sixteen is something percent of 25.
It is, and 25 is of.
Okay, so 16 is, and then of 25. And we'll put the N for the mystery number. That's what we're looking for. So now that we set it up with the formula, how do we solve this again?
Uh, um,
We can do a shortcut on this one, but any method you remember is the right method.
so, well, don't we have to like make them equivalent?
Yeah, so we have to, 16/25 is equivalent to something over 100. So remember we find that code. 25 times what is 100? Times 4. 16 times 4 is what?
64.
Good. So what's the answer to the problem? 16 is what percent of 25?
64.
Yeah. Okay, 0.9 is something percent of 6. What's it gonna look like?
0.9 is, and then 6 is of. Is this on the homework?
Yep.
I thought it said only, um, pages 39 and 40, 54 through 57.
So this is 53. I'll just double check real quick since you're asking. Because that would mean that I skipped one. I wonder, let me see. '54 through 57. Oh, you're right. So I skipped 53. Okay, that would make sense. I must have skipped 53 because I didn't feel like I explained it and I wanted to give it another week. But we're gonna go ahead and do it now, and then I'll just give the class this video, and this will help them know what to do on that. So you're getting a head start. And then we can just do this for part of our time together, and then we can go and do some of those exact homework pages.
Mhm.
All right, what do we do here? We need to make an equivalent here. 0.9 over 6 is equal to something over 100. There's no shortcut to do 6 into 100. There's no shortcut for 9 and 6. Well, there is, but it's gonna be too confusing. So let's do the cross multiplication. So do you remember what to do for that?
Yeah, so
So we need to multiply those numbers,
I
and then we'll divide it by that other number.
81, or no, 90, 99.
90. 90 equals 6 times n, or we can just go 90 divided by 6. Okay, what's 90 divided by 6?
All right, I don't know.
Can you finish this for me? I'm on the last step here.
15.
Yep. Okay. So 15 is your answer. You can write that down in your book. Page 53. Number 3. All right, now we have a fraction. This will be interesting. 1/3 is what percent of 5/6? So this is going to be, hold on. This is going to be a fraction in a fraction. So let's talk about what to do when we have a fraction in a fraction. Because 1/3 is, so that's a top number. And then 5/6 is the bottom number. So even though it's really weird to have a fraction in a fraction, we can still do all the exact same steps. Right? So we're going to go 1/3 times 100. Make 100 a fraction by putting it over 1. So what's the answer to that?
100/3.
Yeah, we'll just leave it in improper. So then we'll have 100/3 divided by that other number. So how do we divide by 5/6?
Just do it by, or,
Do you remember we flip it? We change the multiplication.
oh yeah. 6 or 5. So
Okay,
100,
so this is gonna be our final answer. We just have to solve this.
100 over, or no, wait.
Let's do some cross canceling. So we can cancel out the 5 and the 100 because they both have a factor of 5, right? 5 divided by 5 is 1. 100 divided by 5 is 20. And then the 3 and the 6, that can be a 1 and a 2 because we divided them both by 3. 3 divided by 3, 6 divided by 3. So now when we just have ones on the bottom, it's not even going to be a fraction. We just go 20 times 2 is 40.
And 1.
And that makes sense. I hope it's not a fraction because that would be, I don't know, it's possible, but it would be confusing if we have a fraction percent, right? Like a 30%. That starts to get pretty confusing. So our answer is just 40%. A third is 40% of 5/6. Okay, 1.8 is something percent of 18. This one's easy. We should be able to think about this with the 10% trick. Remember when we find 10%, we just move the decimal over?
1%.
10%. So 10% means basically dividing by 10 because it's a tenth. I don't know, but however this works, we're just going to go move the decimal point over to the left and you end up with 1.8. So if you can recognize that pattern, what they did there, then you know it's 10% and you don't even have to do the problem. Right?
Yeah.
So let's do a quick just practice on that. What is 10% of 72?
72.
Yeah, did you catch what we did? What's the trick?
You
Where's the decimal point on 72? It's hiding at the end. It was invisible. And then we just move it over to the left. So 10% of 72 is 7.2.
Okay.
Did you follow that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so let's do another one. What's 10% of 56?
5.6.
Yeah, 5.6. There you go. What's 10% of 71?
7.1.
Good. Okay, now a little trickier. What's 10% of 716?
71.16.
There you go, 71.6,
Six.
right? Okay, good. 45 is something percent of 50. Now let's see how much you can talk me through this. Okay, let's see if you understand what you're doing.
So 55 is, and then 50 is of.
Yeah, you
So
need 45.
45 over 50.
Okay, then what?
Then 10 can go into or 100 can go into 52 times.
So 50
And
times 2 is 100.
so that's so it would be 90.
Yep, you're right. You did it on your own. That one was pretty easy because we had that shortcut of just going times 2. All right, let's do 48 is something percent of 64.
58 and goes over 64. And then 64 can't go into 100. So what now?
Let's do that cross multiplying. Do you remember what to do?
Oh, right. Okay. Um,
So we're gonna go multiply these numbers, and because of fact families, we'll be able to just go divided by that other number. So what's 48 times 100? You got a zero trick here.
yeah, a lot of zeros.
Do you know that shortcut with the zeros?
Well, it's 4,800, but I think it's just 48.
Right, so 48 with 2 zeros is 4,800. And then we're gonna divide it by 64. And it's okay to do that step on your calculator because it's not the main point of the problem. So I'm okay with using a calculator when you're doing a step of a problem, as long as you know the whole process by hand to do the main point of the problem, right? The main point is to find a percentage. But one of the steps is to do 4,800 divided by 64. So I'm okay if you use a calculator on that.
Okay.
Otherwise, we have to go 64 goes into 480. And that takes some trial and error where we go 64. Let's see. Is it 7? I know it was 7 because I was looking for last digit of 8. But wait, that's still not quite right. That's only 448, but that'll work. Oh yeah, I was confused about the last digit. So 448. Did you get the answer on the calculator?
No, I couldn't get to it fast enough. I have to like go to Google and search up the
I
problem.
bet you could still beat me. Go ahead, we'll race.
Okay, what is the problem?
4,800 divided by 64.
Oh man. It went 49ers music video 80s by 69 by 64. That's what it searched up.
Yeah, it's 5. Is that what you got?
Well, I didn't do it.
Oh, I forgot to put my first number up there. Now I don't remember what it was. 75.
75, yep. That's what I got. That's what 8 got. I searched up and then it went and it said something and then it searched up something about the 49ers and 90s music
Oh
video.
man.
That's what I got.
You know, if you just Google it and you put in the math symbols, then it should bring up your calculator and give you the answer.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do 16 is something percent of 40. And we need to get to the point where you know what to do on the cross multiplication. Okay, so where do we put these numbers? What's the formula gonna look like?
16 over 40.
Equals what? Do you remember what the other one looked like?
It was 100
100 on the bottom.
percentage on top.
And then we're trying to find that percent, right? We're trying to fill in what percent is it? All right, so what are the steps for the cross multiplication?
100 times 16.
Yep. So what is that real quick with the zero trick?
16.
And then put 2 zeros on it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, 1,600
Yep,
times or divided by 40.
good. Now you can do this in your head. We can take a 0 off of them both. And then what, 16 divided by 4 is 4.
Or
And then we still have that 0 to keep.
40, yeah.
So 40%, which would be a little bit less than half. Does that make sense? Yeah, because half of 40 is 20, so 16 is a bit less than half of that. Okay, do you feel like you can try the rest of this page on your own? So that, if you can do that page, the rest of this homework is going to be easy. Then we have some word problems. And the word problems will use that same formula, but it might have a different number you're looking for. It just depends on what it's asking. So here, Eva, go take a look at that homework today and tomorrow. And then if you have questions, you can come to that other tutoring session Friday morning.
All right.
And then we'll go over those then. Does that sound good?
Tutoring session.